President Obama will deliver his farewell address tomorrow. He will speak at the same venue in Chicago where he gave his 2012 election night speech. New York Times correspondent Jodi Kantor has interviewed hundreds of people about the president and First Lady. Her 2012 best-selling book, The Obamas, is being reissued tomorrow with a new preface. Jodi is also a CBS News contributor. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, ever since George Washington, presidents have been giving farewell addresses, but President Obama will be the first to return to his hometown to deliver such a speech. What are you hearing that he'll say?
Well, under very tricky circumstances, right? Because he is about to hand the keys to the White House to a man who he disagrees with on a really fundamental level, right? So,
well, who questioned Obama's legitimacy, birthplace.
Who rose to power in part by smearing him. So the president has a really tricky job to do, right? Because on the one hand, he wants to defend his legacy. He is beginning to set up some of the opposition to Donald Trump for the next 4 years. And yet, as we know, President Obama is a big believer in taking a kind of above the fray, unifying, nonpartisan tone. So what I'm really waiting to see is what is the message he chooses to deliver to the American people about how they should navigate the next 4 years.
Well, I'm guessing that one of the things he's going to talk about, reading a lot of these sort of legacy interviews he's doing, there's always a conversation and some concern about media in the future, in terms of social media, in terms of fake news and all of that.
I think you're absolutely right. And when I went back and reread my own book and what I reported several years ago, that was one of the things that jumped out at me. Yes. Frankly, I think President Obama understood the threat of fake news before the rest of us, right? Because he was, in a way, the patient zero. He was the victim of those rumors that he was not born, spread, by the way, by President-elect Trump, that he was not born in the U.S. If you remember the summer of 2010, there was a lot of fake partisan rumors about death panels and how the Democrats, wanted to make decisions, end-of-life decisions for people. And President Obama was so concerned about this throughout the presidency. And I think a few years ago, the rest of us actually didn't quite see what he was seeing.
Well, he came in on the message of hope, and in all the interviews that Charlie was talking about, the exit interviews that we've seen so far, he still keeps talking about the hope and the optimism that he has, even though the election didn't go the way he thought or had hoped that it would.
Right, but think about, the Obamas, as my book and plenty of other pieces of journalism chronicle, they've been under extraordinary pressure for 8 years. And if Hillary Clinton had won, they would be having like a much more valedictory moment, right? And a much more relaxed post-presidency. Now there is a whole new set of pressures on them, right? To speak to the moment, to meet the Trump moment, to rebuild the Democratic Party, which needs a lot of work. They're really two of the only unifying figures left in a Democratic Party that has been torn apart by the results of this election. So the idea that they can sort of, fly off for a very long Hawaiian vacation, I think, has disappeared. The country is really going to want to keep hearing from him. On the other hand, there is a tradition of former presidents and first ladies, kind of keeping quiet.
Michelle Obama, Harvard-trained lawyer, a woman who's been successful in her own right. And you write about in the piece, even in the New York Times just this weekend, though, about how many times, though, she tried to steer away from controversy.
Yes. So I reported in my book the kind of behind-the-scenes story of the pressure that was on her as the first African-American First Lady. She was in a real throwback of a role. It's really a role that First Ladies have almost always found difficult. And
what do you expect from her now?
So she did find her voice very much so as First Lady. It was kind of an edited version of her real voice.
You heard her voice on Friday when she gave the speech where she said it's been the greatest honor to be the First Lady of this country.
Well, and so
very emotional.
Yes, very emotional.
That speech really resonated with people over the weekend, and I thought it was in part because she really was quite direct, right? I mean, she was above it all, she was gracious, but her chief message was to young people, and she said, do not be afraid, go build a country worthy of your promise. And so even though she was very gracious and polite, there was a forcefulness and a drive that came
I don't think we've heard the last of
message.
either Barack or Michelle Obama.
I'm sure you're right
January
about that.
20th. I'm pretty sure about that.
Nobody's suggesting that. I don't think.
Nope, I don't think so.